Shirley, and what the announcement just said, well, I really mean it. I'm here to talk about your problems and your concerns. Anything goes, so let's not be shy, because you're among friends.
Dolly Parton plays an amateur radio talk show psychologist in Straight Talk, a new comedy that's one of 5 new films we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert. They include an Oscar nominee and a new animated film for kids. I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. Our first movie, Straight Talk, does indeed star Dolly Parton in the story of a frustrated Southern woman who just can't stand by her man for one more second. So she leaves him. She drives up north to the big city of Chicago, where she accidentally becomes an overnight success on a talk show station by shooting straight from the shoulder in her advice for listeners.
But life isn't fair. Why, even the Declaration of Independence only guarantees life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Doesn't say anything about fair. Doesn't even say you have a right to be happy, just to pursue it.
But no one appreciates me, and I try to be fair, and they
Get
don't.
down off the cross, honey. Somebody needs the wood.
She was only hired as the receptionist and got on the air without even realizing it. After her show catches on with the public, the station manager, played by Griffin Dunn, is desperate to sign her to a contract. But she's billed as a doctor, and she doesn't think it's right to claim a title that she hasn't earned.
Okay, $800 a week.
But it still says Dr. Shirley.
Listen. Captain Kangaroo wasn't really a captain. He wasn't even a kangaroo.
Meanwhile, a reporter from the Chicago Sun-Times, played by James Woods, begins to suspect that this radio doctor is either more or less than she seems to be. The problem is, the more he investigates her, the more he falls for her.
Maybe you should try dating a different kind of woman. Someone more real. Someone whose insides look better than their outsides instead of the other way around.
Someone whose name begins with an S and ends with an E?
If you know someone named Sylvie.
No.
Simone?
I know a guy named Shane.
Great, ask him out.
I'd rather ask you out.
The best scenes mostly involve the Dolly Parton character saving herself by simply telling the plain truth.
Where did you receive your training, if I may ask, Doctor?
Where did I receive my training?
Yes. I'm a graduate of Harvard, postgraduate studies at the Sorbonne. Where did you train?
Where did I train? I'll tell you where I trained at Screw You.
Straight Talk is a little too simple-minded, I'm afraid, to be a very good movie. It could have really done something with this story, and maybe could have found real comedy and even some insights in the dilemma of an advice expert who discovers how much help some of her callers really do need. The movie Miss Lonely Hearts did that. But Straight Talk is too distracted by its rags-to-riches formula and by the love story, which doesn't really work because James Woods and Dolly Parton are both, as actors, too contained and too self-defined to ever really seem to be in love with one another. They don't have any chemistry. They're complete packages all by themselves. The movie has some charm and a few real laughs, and that's about it, except for its excellent taste in Chicago newspapers.
You know, Roger, I'm going to give it a slightly positive review. It was a close call for me, but it's interesting. The thing that I liked most about the picture, the thing that you knocked the most, and that is the relationship between these two players.
Yeah?
I know what you're saying in theory, that Dolly Parton is a world unto herself, and James Woods is clearly from a different world. But I thought that the casting of the two of them was interesting. I'll tell you why. Typically, the Hollywood people think that, oh, we got Dolly Parton, got to get a big tree trunk of a guy to play opposite her. And I thought the fact that James Woods, they don't seem particularly comfortable together, and yet there is some attraction to her, and she is so winning as a personality that I thought he couldn't help himself. She's not the kind of person he would normally be interested in, so I was rooting for them to get together.
Here we have two of my favorite actors in all of the movies, James Woods and Dolly Parton, but I defy you to tell me of one interesting thing that they say to each other in this movie.
It isn't as much as of the dialogue between each other. I can't come up with the dialogue right now.
It's been
but wait a second.
You know there isn't any, really.
No. What I am saying is that there are scenes of them together in the coffee shop on Wacker and Wabash, where, you know, we know that location pretty well, where it is appealing to see them together, and you think that he's going to try and defeat her and unmask her, and you can see how the charm works in her.
You're right. The film does have a sweetness. It does have a few laughs. I don't think it really works enough to give it thumbs up.
Okay, next movie, and our next film is called Rock-A-Doodle, and this is a pretty lousy animated film for kids that also offers some jokes aimed at adults and winds up providing little for either kids or their parents. Rock-A-Doodle is the story of an Elvis Presley-style rooster who wakes up the sun with his singing and builds a Las Vegas-type nightclub career upon it. Will kids care about this at all? Will adults be amused? I doubt it.
I'm gonna rock-a-doodle-doodle to you, like you rock-a-doodle-doodle to me. I'm gonna rock-a-doodle-doodle to you, like you rock-a-doodle-doodle to me.
Part of the story involves the barnyard animal friends of the rooster named Chanticleer trying to bring him back to the farm to bring up the sun again and dry out a flood.
Well, fellas, this is it.
The city! The lights, the chicks, the food.
The evil force in the picture is an owl who doesn't like the sun.
We hate the sun, that much we know. Hey! We hate the rooster, we'll never let him grow. Never let him grow. We hate the sun, from head to toe. From head to toe. We hate the rooster, we'll never let him grow.
Well, an owl seems a strange choice as a villain, and Rock-A-Doodle is also very awkward in framing its story with amateurish live-action scenes of a cutesy kid having this story of Chanticleer and his singing told to him by his parents. Other than a nice opening song, I didn't care for anything in Rock-A-Doodle.
You know, I realize that kids, to some degree, are attracted to violence. I mean, kids love to watch Saturday morning cartoons where people hit each other over the head with mallets and so forth.
Some kids.
Lots of kids.
Okay.
But in a movie like this, at feature length, should it all be basically fight scenes?
No.
I mean, isn't there something else that kids could be given? I mean, there is some music in the movie, that's for sure. But on the other hand, isn't there some other way to find a plot that goes from beginning to end and doesn't involve who beats up the most people and gets to be the winner?
As the parent of two children myself, this film started out with a beautiful song. He's raising the sun. I thought, oh, this is going to be sweet. Whammo! In comes the owl, and one of my children left the theater. Yeah. And she didn't miss much.
Okay. When we come back, Thunderheart, about an FBI man who finds himself a very obvious target on an Indian reservation.
It's 500-year resistance. You can't break the connection.
This is my jurisdiction. You were doing 59 and a 55.
Let me see the radar.
I don't need no radar, I can tell.
You're so full of...
No, I listened to the wind when you went by. It said, 59, nail 'em.
The local Indian lawman gives a speeding ticket to the visiting FBI agent in Thunderheart, a new thriller inspired by actual events in the 1970s when the FBI went after Indian activists on a reservation in South Dakota. The movie stars Val Kilmer in a completely convincing performance as a straight-arrow FBI man who's assigned to a murder case on the reservation because he himself is part Native American. Kilmer's character likes to go by the book, and on his first day at the crime scene, he takes most of his cues from a veteran FBI agent, played here by Sam Shepard.
It's a restricted area, Geronimo.
This is Indian land.
What's your name?
Hey, easy, Sal.
Sure as hell ain't Geronimo, Chief.
I think maybe you guys got off the wrong exit, yeah? You looking for Mount Rushmore?
What's your name?
I'm a full-blooded Oglala Sioux, born and raised on this reservation.
Murder suspect and you're under arrest. Now answer my question. Who are you?
He's a cop, is what he is.
Cop?
That kind of behavior eventually begins to bother the Val Kilmer character, who is befriended by the local Indian lawman who is named Walter Crowhorse and played by Graham Greene. You'll probably remember him from his Oscar-nominated performance in Dances with Wolves.
The man you want dragged Leo out on his back, turned him face down, made a circle in the earth with a large pole pine bough, dusted his prints with it back to Leo's vehicle. But he missed one. Whoever killed Leo walks heel-toe.
Plantigrade.
Yeah, like a white man.
The FBI man becomes convinced there is more to the murder than meets the eye and goes to question some of the locals, and among them is a teacher played by Sheila Tousey.
I'm from Minneapolis. I spent 4 years at Dartmouth before I came back to the reservation. I know my rights and I know your world. Grandma's not coming out unless you've got a warrant. And you're trespassing on my property, so hit the road, Chief.
The first thing I want to say about Thunderheart is how much I admired the performance by Val Kilmer. Now, we both thought he should have had an Oscar nomination this year for his work as Jim Morrison in The Doors. But now look at him here playing a character who comes from about the same time in recent history, but from a completely different place. Kilmer seemed to be Jim Morrison, and here he seems to be his opposite, this narrow, rigid FBI man who eventually has his life opened up a little bit on the Indian reservation. Kilmer is good, and so are the actors around him, especially Graham Greene, and so is the way director Michael Apted shows countless details of daily life on the reservation.
I think it's a good film, too, and I think it's, I like just the thing that you said at the end, which is, forget the politics of the film. It's easy to make the FBI bad and the Indians good, but I like the look of this picture. I like seeing some of the rusted-out locations, the beautiful landscape, and the way that the Indians are living on the reservations. And again, Kilmer's performance, it's quite amazing to see what this guy can do in these two characters. You put them side by side, they physically don't look alike. Two separate achievements. I thought it was very good. This is the movie that this reminded me of is Witness, where you have the murder mystery in the Amish.
And you have both the crime. Oftentimes with detective novels and crime novels, they place them in some kind of a locale where you're reading about the locale as part of the bonus, and here that's certainly the case.
Absolutely.
Coming up next, Beethoven, a comedy about a dog who turns a family's life around.
Boy, no matter how many showers I take, I still smell Beethoven all over me.
You have to... Mom, look, I dreamt I had a puppy and it came true.
Our next film is an entertaining kids comedy called Beethoven, involving a cute dog, cute kids, and some very funny parents. The funniest parent is played by Charles Grodin, a wonderful comic actor. Here is a dad who doesn't want his kids to have a pet, especially not a runaway St. Bernard that's only going to get bigger. Well, naturally, the kids prevail. The puppy is named Beethoven, and the dog loves Charles Grodin. Here it tries to save him from signing a business contract with a couple of shady characters.
And he's about to sign.
Just standard stuff, really. It's just the main thing.
Here, get out of here, you mutt. I pitched in college.
A more direct threat to Beethoven is an evil animal doctor played by Dean Jones, a nice casting choice given Jones's history of playing good guys in Disney comedies.
You hit me, I'll have you put in jail for assault and battery.
Whoa! Dad!
Honey.
Some of the comic moments in Beethoven are predictable, but they're still funny, principally because of Grodin and his wife in the film, freshly played by newcomer Bonnie Hunt.
Well, she drives me crazy.
George? Who are you talking to?
Beethoven is a winning comedy because of the cute dog and the good casting. You have seen these situations before. 101 Dalmatians has lots of them, and it's a better film. But I did enjoy Beethoven nonetheless and recommend it for young audiences and for their parents.
Well, my problem was I'm not a young audience and I'm not a parent. And, you know, we usually don't say who we think will enjoy the film, but I agree with you. Kids will probably like this movie. They'll like the dog. They'll like the kids in the film. They'll like the adventures that Beethoven is going through.
You like Charles Grodin?
I like Charles Grodin. I've liked him a lot more in other films that gave him a little bit more to do. And as I sat there, I was almost looking at it with two minds, because I found it very predictable and very much by the numbers. And yet at the same time, I thought, if I hadn't seen that very many movies, and if I were 8 or 9 or 10 years old, I'd probably really enjoy it. So that's the call I have to make. It's not for me. And it really wasn't for you either. It was for that young audience and their kids that you're talking about.
Well, I didn't make a distinction here. I mean, I enjoyed it. I'm not saying here that my kids enjoyed it. I'm saying I enjoyed it.
Okay.
And I like the casting. The casting of Dean Jones is smart. Now, that isn't done for little kids.
No.
That's done for people like us who know the joke that's being played.
Okay, when we come back, one of this year's Oscar nominees for Best Foreign Film, Raise the Red Lantern. One of the most visually beautiful films I've seen this year has been nominated for an Academy Award as Best Foreign Film. It's from China. It's named Raise the Red Lantern, and it was directed by China's best-known filmmaker, Zhang Yimou, who also directed last year's Oscar nominee, Judo. Once again, his subject is the relationship between a young woman and a rich older man who has essentially purchased her with his economic power. The movie takes place inside the house of the rich old man, who has 4 wives, and the title comes from the fact that every evening a servant raises a red lantern in front of the quarters of the wife that the man plans to spend the night with. The movie stars Gong Li as the beautiful young 4th wife who discovers that life in this house is a hotbed of sexual politics.
怎么样？点灯捶脚，到这会儿你觉出点意思来了吧？再过些天呢，你就更离不了喽。
谁呀？什么事儿？
三姐又叫你了，你该过去了。
The camera suggests the elegance of the physical comforts in the house at the same time that the dialogue suggests that it is a forlorn prison.
飞虎，飞虎，你给我下来！
我母亲叫我有事儿，那我先走了。
This is the 3rd movie by Zhang Yimou that I've seen. Red Sorghum was about a young woman purchased by a rich old vineyard owner. Judo was about the young bride of a rich man who dyed textiles. And now we get this film in which the rich husband is off screen almost altogether, and the director focuses on what is probably his real obsessive subject, the feelings of women who are the victims of men, tradition, and money. This is a subtle, elegant, and moving film about an educated woman who has her whole life ahead of her, but decides to sell herself to the old man, and then her life is limited by the 4 walls of his house. It's a film that can be read as an angry parable and not just about China.
Well, I like the picture, too. The only thing I quarrel with you on is the use of the word subtle. I think it's really very clear what this film is about, and I think that it's more than just the dialogue that shows that this is a prison. I think the overhead shots that we get of the whole compound that this Titan operates is one of like a prison very much, and I think that
that's not the part that I thought was subtle.
Okay.
I thought the part that was subtle had to do with the fact that the 4 women,
yes,
first of all, they all hate the man, and yet they all pretend they like him in order to get one up on each other, and then their servants are also part of the game, and the doctor who comes in is giving some of them medical excuses and so forth, and the jockeying that goes on, I think, is very quiet and interesting.
Well, I think that this is typically what happens when you enslave people, is that they become their own worst enemies, and they accept the order, and then they bicker among themselves to be a better slave than a worse slave, and it's a terrible trap that these people are in. I think the film shows it quite clearly, and I'm sure it's an explosive film in China.
Okay, coming up next, our video pick of the week, another but very different drama about contemporary Native Americans.
If Thunderheart and its contemporary Indian story has any appeal for you, then you might be interested in another good, similar film available on home video. It's Powwow Highway, the 1989 drama about a couple of contemporary Cheyenne Indians, one an activist, the other a lout, who struggled to break the activist's sister out of jail.
I'm concerned with your appearance. If you want to be a warrior, you got to dress right. That's an essential part of the ritual.
I got no bird for buckskin.
Huh? That's Cheyenne?
I got no bird for buckskin.
That's A. Martinez and Gary Farmer as the Indians, and director Jonathan Wax made good use of Native Americans in his cast. I think there's a good reason why films like Powwow Highway and Thunderheart work so well. They have plenty of naturally intriguing visuals, the contrast between the way Indians traditionally have been portrayed in the movies and the rough, sometimes rusted-out reservations of today. Powwow Highway is available on tape, and I do recommend renting it. Now let's recap the movies we reviewed on the show. A split decision on Straight Talk, the Dolly Parton-James Woods romantic comedy. Roger didn't think there was much chemistry between the stars. I did. I like the offbeat casting. 2 thumbs down, way down for the violent and depressing animated picture, Rock-A-Doodle. 2 thumbs up for Thunderheart, the murder mystery set on an Indian reservation, featuring another strong performance by Val Kilmer. A split vote on Beethoven, the kitty dog comedy. Roger voted thumbs down, but admitted it might be fun for children. I think kids will enjoy it too, but I did as well. And I liked Charles Grodin and Bonnie Hunt in their characterizations. And 2 thumbs up for Raise the Red Lantern, the feminist Chinese drama, nominated as Best Foreign Language Film. So the film we seem to be endorsing the most, I think, is Thunderheart. I liked Beethoven.
And Raise the Red Lantern is also playing around the country here and there. That's it for this week. Next week we'll be back with a new Robert Altman film, The Player, very controversial, starring Tim Robbins and Greta Scacchi in an attack on Hollywood. And the new musical Newsies with Robert Duvall and Anne Margaret. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.
Stork Chocolate Reason. If you like chocolate, then you'll love Reason. Extra chewy chocolate caramels covered with a rich chocolate coating. Crisp, clean, very masculine. Wear it and be victorious. Adidas, aftershave and cologne, the essence of sports. No-nonsense pantyhose, as beautifully put together as the women who wear them. No nonsense. Shower yourself with a new sensation, new refreshing Shield. Experience its unique skin-invigorating formula and feel the blast of pure refreshment.